Srimad Bhagavatam, translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 1, Chapter 6. Conversation between Narada and Vyas. Text 29. At the end of the millennium, when the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, lies down within the water of devastation, Brahma begins to enter into him along with all creative elements, and I also enter through his breathing. Purport. Narada is known as the son of Brahma, as Lord Krishna is known as the son of Vasudeva. The personality of Godhead and his liberated devotees, like Narada, appear in the material world by the same process. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the birth and activities of the Lord are all transcendental. Therefore, according to authorized opinion, the birth of Narada as the son of Brahma is also a transcendental pastime. His appearance and disappearance are practically on the same level as that of the Lord. The Lord and his devotees are therefore simultaneously one and different as spiritual entities. They belong to the same category of transcendence. Text 30. After 4,300,000,000 solar years, Brahma awakes to create again by the will of the Lord, and all the rishis like Marichi, Angira, Atri, and so on are created from the transcendental body of the Lord, and I also appear along with them. Purport. The duration of a day in the life of Brahma is 4,320,000,000 solar years. This is stated also in the Bhagavad Gita. For this period, Brahmaji rests in Yoga Nidra within the body of the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the generator of Brahma. Thus, after the sleeping period of Brahma, when there is again creation by the will of the Lord through the agency of Brahma, all the great rishis again appear from different parts of the transcendental body, and Narada also appears. This means that Narada appears in the same transcendental body, just as a man awakes from sleep in the same body. Sri Narada is eternally free to move in all parts of the transcendental and material creations of the Almighty. He appears and disappears in his own transcendental body, which is without distinction of body and soul, unlike conditioned beings. Text 31. Since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, I travel everywhere without restriction, both in the transcendental world and in the three divisions of the material world. This is because I am fixed in unbroken devotional service to the Lord. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there are three divisions of the material spheres, namely the Urdhaloka, topmost planets, Madhyaloka, midway planets, and Adaloka, downward planets. And beyond the Urdhaloka planets, that is to say, above the Brahmaloka, there are the material coverings of the universe. Above that, there is a spiritual sky which is unlimited in expansion, containing unlimited self-illuminated Vaikuntha planets, inhabited by God Himself, along with His associates, who are all eternally liberated living entities. Sri Narada Muni could enter all these planets both in the material and spiritual spheres, without restriction, as much as the Almighty Lord is free to move personally in any part of His creation. In the material world, the living beings are influenced by the three material modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. But Sri Narada Muni is transcendental to all these material modes, and thus he can travel everywhere unrestricted. He is a liberated spaceman. The causeless mercy of Lord Vishnu is unparalleled, and such mercy is perceived by the devotees only by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, the devotees never fall down, but the materialists, that is, the fruitive workers and the speculative philosophers, do fall down, being forced by the respective modes of nature. The rishis, as above mentioned, cannot enter into the transcendental world like Narada. This fact is disclosed in the Nrsinga Purana. Rishis like Marichi are authorities in fruitive work, and rishis like Shanaka and Sanatan are authorities in philosophical speculations. But Sri Narada Muni is the prime authority for the transcendental devotional service of the Lord. All the great authorities in the devotional service of the Lord follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni in the order of the Narada Bhakti Sutra, and therefore all the devotees of the Lord are unhesitatingly qualified to enter into the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha. Text 32. And thus I travel, constantly singing the glories of the Lord and transcendental messages, vibrating this instrument called the veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. Purport. The musical string instrument called the veena, which was handed to Narada by Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Linga Purana, and this is confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami. This transcendental instrument is identical with Lord Sri Krishna and Narada, because all of them are of the same transcendental category. Sound vibration by the instrument cannot be material. Therefore, the glories and pastimes which are broadcast by the instrument of Narada are also transcendental, without a tinge of material inebriety. The 7 singing meters, namely Sa, Sarja, Ar, Rishabha, Ga, Gandhara, Ma, Madhyam, Pa, Pancham, Da, Daivata, and Ni, Nishada, are also transcendental and specifically meant for transcendental songs. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Sri Narada Dev is always fulfilling his obligations to the Lord for his gift of the instrument, and thus he is always engaged in singing his transcendental glories and is therefore infallible in his exalted position. Following in the footsteps of Sri Narada Muni, a self-realized soul in the material world should also properly use the sound meters, namely Sa, Ri, Ga, Ma, etc., in the service of the Lord, by constantly singing the glories of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Text 33. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears in the seat of my heart, as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. Purport. The absolute personality of Godhead is not different from his transcendental name, form, pastimes, and the sound vibrations thereof. As soon as a pure devotee engages himself in the pure devotional service of hearing, chanting, and remembering the name, fame, and activities of the Lord, at once he becomes visible to the transcendental eyes of the pure devotee by reflecting himself on the mirror of the heart by spiritual television. Therefore, a pure devotee who is related with the Lord in loving transcendental service can experience the presence of the Lord at every moment. It is a natural psychology in every individual case that a person likes to hear and enjoy his personal glories enumerated by others. That is a natural instinct, and the Lord, being also an individual personality like others, is not an exception to this psychology, because psychological characteristics visible in the individual souls are but reflections of the same psychology in the Absolute Lord. The only difference is that the Lord is the greatest personality of all, and absolute in all his affairs. If, therefore, the Lord is attracted by the pure devotee's chanting of his glories, there is nothing astonishing. Since he is absolute, he can appear himself in the picture of his glorification, the two things being identical. Sri Narada chants the glorification of the Lord, not for his personal benefit, but because the glorifications are identical with the Lord. Narada Muni forces the presence of the Lord by this transcendental chanting. Text 34. It is personally experienced by me that those who are always full of cares and anxieties due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects can cross the ocean of nescience on a most suitable boat. The constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Purport. The symptom of a living being is that he cannot remain silent even for some time. He must be doing something, thinking of something, or talking about something. Generally, the materialistic men think and discuss about subjects which satisfy their senses. But as these things are exercised under the influence of the external illusory energy, such sensual activities do not actually give them any satisfaction. On the contrary, they become full with cares and anxieties. This is called Maya, or what is not. That which cannot give them satisfaction is accepted as an object of satisfaction. So Narada Muni, by his personal experience, says that satisfaction for such frustrated beings engaged in sense gratification is to chant, always, the activities of the Lord. The point is that the subject matter only should be changed. No one can check the thinking activities of a living being, nor the feeling, willing, or working processes. But if one wants actual happiness, one must change the subject matter only. Instead of talking of the politics of a dying man, one might discuss the politics administered by the Lord himself. Instead of relishing activities of the cinema artists, one can turn his attention to the activities of the Lord with his eternal associates like the gopis and Lakshmis. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, by his causeless mercy, descends on the earth and manifests activities almost on the line of the worldly men, but at the same time extraordinarily, because he is almighty. He does so for the benefit of all conditioned souls, so that they can turn their attention to transcendence. By doing so, the conditioned soul will gradually be promoted to the transcendental position and easily cross the ocean of nescience, the source of all miseries. This is stated from personal experience by an authority like Sri Narada Muni. And we can have the same experience also if we begin to follow in the footsteps of the great sage, the dearmost devotee of the Lord.